Teams are locking up young talent earlier than ever, but is it a smart long-term strategy or too much risk too soon? Drop a comment. Tell us, what do you think about these recent MLB extensions? Parker, Oprah must be making herself present in some of these front offices because it's you get an extension, you get extension, you get extension all week long. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in baseball.
Yeah, so we've had three major extensions for significant dollar amounts for players that haven't even made big league debuts yet throughout the course of this week. In fact, we're recording 4 or 5 hours after the Connor Griffin extension was broke by Buster only today. Connor Griffin getting a 9-year, $140 million extension. We'll get into the rest of them and everything like that. That's super, super cool. I just think it's a weird thing, and I think, I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat right now, and I'm going to say that the propensity for these long-term extensions for these young players is, I don't know what it means, but it's, I think, indicative of what angle the owners are taking and how negotiations are currently going between, and I know there's no real public negotiations going on right now, but if you think that the players union and the owners aren't talking on a regular basis these days, I mean, I think that that's pretty good, easy to extrapolate. I have a feeling that this is indicative of the direction that MLB is looking to take here after this labor negotiation. I still think there's going to be a lockout, but I think it's interesting that these owners are so eager to throw out so much money to these unproven talents.
Well, it's undeniable that everything is shrouded in the CBA, and I'm with you. I think there is some of that here, and we'll get to that in finer detail here shortly. I want to set the scene. You mentioned these three young ball players who got extensions this week. Connor Griffin, the 9-year, $140 million deal, which brings that to a 15.5 AAV. We have Colt Emerson, top prospect for the Mariners, who himself got an 8-year, $95 million deal. A guy who is not like Griffin, has not had an at-bat in the majors. Emerson has an 11.8 AAV on that deal, so that is just crazy. And then the odd one here, Parker, Cooper Pratt, who has not even had significant double-A at-bats. 8-year, $50.75 million for about a $6 million AAV. And I want to start with Cooper Pratt, Parker, because people are going to ask questions about him. He's the odd man out here. This is a guy that has not even broke some people's top 100 prospect lists. But here we have the Brewers, who gave Jackson Chourio a similar extension a couple years ago, doing it with this guy seemingly out of nowhere. I mean, what do you make of that?
I mean, I think maybe I'm giving myself a little too much credit here, but I think it speaks to the whole situation when I say that I had never heard this guy's name before this extension was signed. He is a double-A player. This is genuinely unprecedented. Like, the other extensions are unprecedented. Like, they keep getting younger and younger. They keep having less and less service time under their belt when they sign extensions. This is insane. I mean, the Brewers look like that they're, you hit once at the blackjack table, you have yourself a good double down and you make yourself a bunch of money, and all of a sudden you want to sit at the blackjack table all night. This kind of feels like what the Brewers are doing. No offense at all intended for Cooper Pratt. He's probably a really good going to be a really good big league ball player. But this is pretty nuts. To sign up for $50.75 million in 8 years for a guy who may not even be in the big leagues in the next year. I mean, you're basically buying out 2 years of free agency at this particular point if he were to debut today. So interesting that they're going to cost control to that point. They must think that this guy's going to make close to like 20-something million the last 2-3 years of his arbitration deals, and they're trying to get out in front of it now.
Well, you said it there, is they think, right? This is all projection. Mm-hmm. And so these teams have to, when they hand out a deal like this, make some pretty risky bets and projections around these players. And some of those are less risky, right? Like a Connor Griffin with the talent that he has, 5'6" tool player, if you want to get really fancy. Sure, maybe less of a risk, of course. The skill is there. Guy like Cooper Pratt, your internal research and development team has to be really, really high on this guy for whatever reason, X, Y, and Z. But for you, Parker, when you look at these deals, I mean, to me, it just seems like there's two reasons, if we want to just put this out front here, why these teams would even want to do these deals, just at bare minimum. Number one is They have faith in these guys. There's something in them that they've seen that they project well from their internal controls. And two, I know you said, hey, 50 years over or 50 million over 8 years, that's a hefty commitment. It's really peanuts now in the baseball
Right.
landscape, right? Like if you have a 3-WAR player, that guy's going to be making 25 million a year now. I mean, that's just it's where we're going. So,
Especially in ARB.
especially in ARB, right? I mean, these things are peanuts. So the cost control thing is huge. Like say, for example, you have Connor Griffin, who's with the Pirates for 9 years at 15.5 AAV. If you have that guy go through ARB, I mean, if he's doing all that we think he's going to do, he could be getting 28, 30, 32 million in ARB by the time he gets there. I mean, this is a steal for a team like the Pirates that will always seemingly need to have some cost control in their books.
I mean, yeah, to your point there, Connor Griffin being 18 years old, as he's 18 at the time of debut. Is that what it is? 18 or 19?
I think it's 19. I think it's 19.
He was 12 during COVID. So, like, if you want to put it that way, that's where we're at right now with Big League Baseball.
That frame of reference. Yeah. Holy crap.
I had a kid already during COVID. I was like 24.
Oh my God. So 12 during COVID? That cannot be real. That
you got to stop thinking about stuff that way. But yeah, so I mean, when you think about it through that lens, Connor Griffin, if he's going to be the kind of guy that, $140 million contract, 15.5 million AAV, if that's indicative of what they think he's going to be, he's going to be the next Juan Soto in terms of like that 25-year-old like super phenom free agent who hasn't even hit his prime yet. And so if you're going to go ahead and try to lock that guy down, you better buy out 3-4 years of free agency. And if you can get that guy at $15 million of free agency, you are literally saving yourself at that point in his career. In 6 years, who knows what contracts look like? You could be literally giving yourself like a 3-4x discount on his contract, because if you're paying him $15.5 million, who knows what the AAV for a 5, 6, 7-WAR player is going to be at that point? It's probably going to be like $50-60 million if no labor negotiation changes anything. So it's the cost control. That's all it is for these owners. I mean, nobody wants to lose an arbitration case. I would bet that one of the most glossed over things in baseball is front office reactions to losing ARB cases, because a lot of times the difference between the player number and the number that the front office presents are so vast that it drastically changes the way that your lineup can even be built at that point in the offseason. I mean, think about just a microcosm of that. Number one, we like the easy one to go reference is Tarek Skubal. I think that the Tigers really expected him to win that one if they weren't completely, naive. But to me, I think about what happened to the Yankees when Trent Grisham accepts the qualifying offer. It's like, well, there goes $20 million. We were going to spend that elsewhere, but now Trent Grisham just accepted $20 million. And I think that when you can cost control guys to the extent that these, 9 and 8 year, two of these 3 contracts are double digit 8-year contracts. Like that's easy money for an ownership group that truly believes these guys are maybe even MVP contenders doing it down the road.
The teams that are doing this, I think, provides some pretty important context here. I mean, you're looking at the Pirates, the Mariners, and the Brewers. Now, I think you and I would both agree when we look at teams that will probably in perpetuity have rather small payrolls because of their markets. You're looking at the Brewers and the Pirates absolutely on that list. The Mariners are kind of that team in the middle where we've seen them spend, but they are also pretty conservative relative to other teams like your Dodgers, your Mets, what have you. So these are teams that, in my mind, if you're giving an 8-year, 9-year deal to your young players and you're locking them in at super cost controlled value, to me, you're saying, I'm going to fight like hell to get this team to a World Series in that 8 to 9 year window because I'm taking that money and I'm reallocating it, right? So it would be a failure, right, for these teams to not play competitive baseball consistently over the next 8 to 9 years, making these investments, particularly, in my opinion, the Mariners that have so much around Colt Emerson already. Connor Griffin, you're building around him and Paul Skeens. Colt Emerson is cherry on top for the Mariners.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, and you kind of alluded to it just there, so I'll ask you now. Which of these extensions is more exciting for you?
For me, it's Connor Griffin, and for not the obvious reason, right? Like we could talk about Connor Griffin being the best of these three, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's about that Pirate fan base and how much they've actually been screwed over by that ownership
Yeah.
group over these years, and now they have a top pitcher in the game in Paul Skeens. They have now seemingly what's going to be a top position player in Connor Griffin. I mean, that right there, and you surround that with key pieces, there's something really special that could happen in Pittsburgh. And I really give them about 2 years where we start to see some very meaningful, impactful baseball for full 162 out of Pittsburgh. And that fan base has needed that so bad. Now, asterisk, they've locked up Connor Griffin. They need to do the same with Paul Skeens, period. If they do not do that, that will be an abject failure for that franchise. That is going to be very hard to do. Don't get me wrong, very hard, but it's a requirement. If you're going to make an investment in a guy like Connor Griffin like this, you need to be willing to shell out the money for someone like Paul Skeens. Do I think Paul stays in Pittsburgh? I'm not a betting man. I'm not saying he would, but you gotta give it a college try.
So I think I would agree with you. I think Connor Griffin is the more compelling of the extensions, but only because he seems like the last or one of the final pieces of a complete rebuild that the Pirates have frankly needed since what was it, 2019?
Yeah.
It's been almost a decade of the Pirates living in mediocrity, basically since Kutch left the first time.
Hmm.
And remember when the Brian Reynolds extension happened? It was like, why? Why would Brian Reynolds sign
Right.
that extension? What a weird extension to give out. And all of a sudden, here we are down the road after drafting Paul Skeens, drafting Connor Griffin, inking Connor Griffin to this extension. You have Bubba Chandler coming up, and there's also like one or two other prospects that are very, very high profile names that I can't remember off the top of my head right now that are on their way up through that system.
Yeah.
And I think back, and not so long ago, we were talking about how maybe Ji-Hwan Bae was the best player on the Pittsburgh Pirates. And now we're talking about a team that really has a chance to make a run at this division and definitely has a chance to make the playoffs. So I think that Connor Griffin being kind of the cherry on top or close to it, maybe at least the icing, this is a super, super cool thing to see from a franchise that has been run by a family like the Nuttings that just hasn't given their fans, like you said, anything to be excited about. In fact, quite a bit to complain about over the last half a
Yeah.
decade. So, I mean, this is awesome. Connor Griffin's going to be an absolute stud. I have no doubt that this guy's going to, after this deal, he will sign an extension that pays him the totality of, not an extension or extension contract, what have you. He will sign a contract that pays him the totality of the value of this contract in 2 to 3 years. That's the kind of guy that I
Yeah.
think Connor Griffin's going to be and where baseball's going to be at that point. Save, of course, labor negotiation. I must say something like that just in case. But yeah.
I want to go to the player side of this, Parker. I was reading, I think it was an article out of The Athletic yesterday, and they had interviewed Corbin Carroll, and they asked Corbin Carroll, do you regret your early extension? Because you remember Corbin Carroll, after only a season in the majors, I think it was actually less than a season in the majors,
It
signed
was
his
like
big
Corbin Carroll,
extension.
Bobby Witt. They all signed really early extensions, back to back.
Yes, and they asked Corbin, do you regret that? And Corbin said, no, not at all, not for a second. And he recalled a conversation he had with D-backs teammate Evan Longoria, and Longoria told him, like, hey, now that you have this, you can play free and not have to have this weighing on your back to perform to a contract. And there's some value there, absolutely.
Oh
And
my God,
I,
yeah.
I have to ask you, I mean, if you're a player and you're handed 140 mil right here in the contract, like, to me, the security, the injury protection, the guaranteed money, I mean, these guys, especially nowadays, are probably running towards that. Well, why
Yeah.
wouldn't you?
I'll use an example from my team, from the Red Sox, to kind of illustrate the difference between the two. We have two outfielders on our team, one of them locked up long term, the other one not locked up long term. Roman Anthony locked up long term, and Jarren Duran very much not locked up long term. Both of them, I would argue, at this particular point, as of game 6 of the 2026 season are equally important to winning the next baseball game they play. Jarren Duran being put in the DH role for the majority of this season is a legitimate detriment to his value. He is a very good center fielder. He's not elite, I would say, but he's a very good defensive center fielder, an average at worst defensive left fielder, a speed demon on the base pass who's streaky with his bat. Getting put in a DH role is not a death sentence, but he is going to make significantly less money because of a decision like that. And you can tell it's affecting his mental. You can see it in the dugout shot. It's just not a role that he wanted to play this year. Roman Anthony, however, being locked up long term, he's willing to play left field, right field. He'd play DH. He can do anything the team wants him to do because he's already secure in the fact that it's not losing him value on the market. He's going to get his at-bats, he's going to play his defensive innings, and he's going to be able to sign another contract after this one, presumably at a relatively the same price no matter what position he plays. And that's why it was so weird when Rafael Devers' whole situation happened a year ago. Because these players do get a sense of freedom. They get a sense of solidified, like, I don't know, buy a house, dude. Settle down. Get your kids in the school system because you're going to be here a while. And that is so valuable. I've mentioned this a couple times. I don't love to harp on it, but I'm in the Marine Corps and I've had to move every 3 to 4 years for the last 10 years of my life. And I'm telling you right now, as a guy with, a wife, 2 kids, and 1 on the way, moving all the time sucks. And these guys are sometimes moving every year or multiple times in a year. So the solidified like security of a long-term contract as early as you can get it in your career, all about it. I love it. Not to mention, this is always life-changing money if you're talking a contract like that.
Of course. Like, let's not, the perspective here is important. We're talking about CBAs where, they want to give teams salary caps because guys are making 40, 50 million a year. Yeah, whatever. That's the elite of the elite. That is the half of a 1% of baseball, less than that, folks. Like, for these guys to be making 11, 15 annual average value, let's not scoff and think that's nothing. That's big money, folks. Like, that is just real life good money, right? I'll say it this way. I'll even go as far as say if you have a guy making 700, what's the minimum? 740,000 right now in MLB is the minimum.
That
guys,
is life-changing money.
CEOs make less than that for small companies in the United States. Like, let's just be real and maintain our perspective.
For medium-sized companies in the United States, man, like that's a great amount of money to be making. That's why these guys are desperate for cups of coffee. Because you get bumped up to league minimum the day that you step foot on the team facility.
100%. Like, this is to play a kid's game. I always think it's so important to keep that perspective in all of this, which is why, tangent, when we get to the CBA, you're going to see me at my absolute worst because I get so pissed off at these conversations. They hurt me at my core because we're talking about things that are just icky. Kind of is the best way to talk about it, honestly. But to get back on track here, I think you alluded to this when you were talking about kind of what's in it for the players. And I think this is a win-win. Like, this is the one thing in this sport that I really do think is a win-win for everyone. It's a win for the players because they get that life-changing money early guaranteed. It's a win because say their career does go haywire. Like, even though these are major league players or soon to be major league players, the percentage of those players that become great is still so damn small. Think about a guy like Chris Bryant, right? Like, top pick out of the draft, won an MVP in Rookie of the Year. Look how his career has just crumbled, and he is going to miss out on some big money. And these guys will not. They will get life-changing money right away out of the gate, no matter what happens. And like you said, the ability to get even a larger contract with a lot more prime years ahead of them. So you put that on the list here. You put the fact that the owners get cost certainty. Like, it just really, to me, seems like a win-win when you think about baseball economics as a whole. I don't know how you don't do something like this if you're confident in your guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Even going to look at, the closest example of a failure of this system, or at least what could be a failure of this system. to at least the closest one to my boat, Christian Campbell. Think about the extension he signed last
Yeah.
year at the beginning of the season, right
Yeah.
around this time, actually, right around before the Red Sox made their home opening day. Uh, right now, that extension looks bad. It looks really bad
Mhm.
because there's no path to the big leagues right now for Christian Campbell unless he has a radically, like 3 or 4 people get hurt and he learns how to play second base out of nowhere. Um, but at the end of the day, it's still a win-win because the Red Sox, Christian Campbell gets life-changing money. He's going to get that no matter what. The Red Sox are not on the hook for 150 to, a bajillion dollars for this guy. Right now, his salary hit towards the luxury tax this year is $7 million. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa makes $6 million. So like, what is 7 million these days in MLB? So yeah, no, I
Not a damn
absolutely
thing. Yeah.
the risks are not that bad, especially if like a player's development stalls, like Christian Campbell's kind of has, anything like that. Like the risks of these deals really don't outweigh the benefits of getting these guys locked up long term for either side.
I think about it this way too. I think when you're a front office trying to make the calculus of you paying a guy long term, the calculus and the thought process really is the same as if you're trying to go after that 30 AAV free agent, right? It's the same
Yeah,
calculus where you're like, I'm going to outlay all this cash in my books for 8 to 10 years. And I have my projections. I think they're pretty good. You never really know, no matter what computer spits out at you guys, life happens. These are humans. Injuries happen. You never really know. Would you rather make that calculation and bet on someone when you have 400 million on the line or where you have 50 or 90 million on the line? 10 times out of
right.
10 from a business perspective, I'm taking the latter.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree.
So I got to ask, um, do you think this is like something we're going to see more? Do you think this is a new trend in the game with the CBA? Is this essentially buying what the owners may, concede to a shorter time to get to free agency? I mean, where are we going from here with this?
I think it'll be the new normal for the top 10 prospects in baseball. Um,
Hmm.
and whoever the Brewers decide to hitch their wagon to, apparently. Uh, but I don't know that it's going to be. We're really going to have our landscape changed a lot this time next year
Yeah,
because we're probably not
yeah.
playing baseball games right now this time next year. We're probably in a lockout still.
Oh, I
Um,
don't even want to. Yeah,
so I
yeah.
I'll say if nothing were to change, maybe, but everything's going to change, so probably not.
Last thing I'll ask you about because this can't go unnoticed is these are three hitters, three position players, no pitchers.
Right.
Does that change your thought on this? Do you think there is still value in this approach with pitchers?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially in a world where you can take a reliever off of the market for $1 million, teach him a new pitch, and he becomes a completely different guy. Um, and as long as you can take a Cy Young winner, have some elbow soreness one day in spring training, and he's gone for a year and a half. As long as that is the case, then
Yes.
pitchers will be treated with kid gloves when it comes to contracts like this.
But to me, if I'm the pitcher, I want to take a deal like this more than if I were a position player. Like my
Oh,
career as a pitcher is
absolutely, because pitchers
so
know.
much,
Yeah.
yes, so much more volatile as a pitcher. Like if I'm a pitcher, I'll use my own example here. I look at these contracts and I'm like, White Sox, just please, like Hagen Smith, Noah Schultz. Can we just lock in our number 1 and 2 for the next like 7 or 8 years, please? And if I'm Hagen or Noah, I'm jumping on that. I mean, those are two hard throwing guys. In the case of Noah Schultz, he only put on poundage last year. I mean, the guy's like walking skeleton man from
Yeah.
the left side, throwing 96, 97. So
He's
if I'm a
probably the
pitcher,
least valuable now than he will be over the next 5 years.
absolutely. Like I do think you jump on that, and I think players are probably served best as pitchers to just again lock up the money when you're 21, 22 in that range, kind of then bank on the second contract if all goes well.
I don't know.
I don't
See,
know,
that's the
Parker.
thing, though. There's like one or two guys at that age to get a contract like this
Yeah.
that are good enough to offer them a contract like this, and they're so good that I think Paul Skeens hits free agency. Unless they throw
I think you're right.
$400 million at him, I think Paul Skeens is going straight to free agency.
No, I think you're right. I know I said earlier, I put the Pirates on blast for preemptively shitting on them for probably not signing him, but we know that's going to be unlikely because of
Mhm.
that. He will go to free agency, much like Tarek Skubal will. Tarek Skubal will get himself. I can't even fathom what Tarek Skubal is going to get this offseason. And it will be interrupted by the CBA. So we may even have to wait longer on that.
That's actually crazy. I
Yeah,
wonder if he just inks a contract in November.
he may. I see a couple scenarios. He either inks a 1-year bridge deal with somebody, or he jumps the whole market and says, hey, teams, submit your stuff by this day. I want this wrapped up immediately before we go to the CBA. And the
Because
teams are going
December
to have
1
to.
is the lockout.
Yeah. Yeah. It would have to be like really fast, really fast.
Oh, man. And negotiations will have been going on by then. And he is a Boris client, right? Yeah, he's a Boris client.
Yes. Yeah.
I would
That's
not be
crazy.
surprised if Tarek Skubal signs a deal November 5th.
Isn't that nuts? That's crazy. Because what's the
Yeah,
alternative? What's the alternative? You wait until 2027 and when we're all rushing around trying to get a season started in 14 days? Like, no,
yeah. If I
right?
wasn't a Boris client if I was Tarek Skubal and I wasn't a Boris client, I would be switching my agent today to go become a Boris client because I want only that man negotiating this particular free agency period because only
Yes.
Scott Boris can walk into a room and say, my guy has won 2, maybe 3 Cy Young Awards back to back. The bidding starts at $400 million. You have a week.
Right. You have
Like that
that is
might
some
be what
really
he does. Or maybe it's we'll see you in August of next year. Like who knows?
that is a very specific. That just sounds like Liam Neeson out of Taken.
Yeah.
I
That's
have a
crazy.
very
Anyway,
particular
these
set of
contracts are nuts. Baseball's
tangibles.
insane.
Yeah, it sure is. Leave us a comment, folks. Tell us, would you rather bet early on upside or wait until a player proves it and pay more later? Which of these contracts are you most excited about? Tell us in the comments, and thanks for talking contract extensions with us here.